the summer of 2016, 15 Butler students, faculty, and family members traveled to Israel, Palestine, and Jordan as a part of Dr. James McGrath's Religion in Israel/Palestine class. We spent our first day and a half making our way across the Atlantic in 3 separate groups. We touched down in Tel Aviv, went through customs, and met our tour guide Balir Jazi. From the airport, we headed towards Tel Aviv and the old port city of Jaffa. Walking along the shores of the Mediterranean was a great way to relax after 2 long days of travel. The next morning, we woke up ready to explore all that the Holy Land had to offer us. Our first stop, the ancient Roman harbor city of Caesarea. It had once been a city of great wealth, but earthquakes and military conflicts led to its demise. Next on our list was the Crusader city of Acre, known locally as Akko. Our last stop of the day was the modern port city of Haifa, just south of Acre. In Haifa, we visited the Baha'i Gardens, which serves as an important site for the faith it is named for. Day 4. It was time to head inland as we headed for the Sea of Galilee. We took a boat trip out onto the calm waters and learned how to dance the Hava Nagila. Next, we drove up to the Mount of Beatitudes, where the Sermon on the Mount is believed to have been held. Down below, the old city of Capernaum still stood. This was an important site for Jesus and his disciples. lunch, we had tilapia fish, which is also known as St. Peter's fish, a local find and quite delicious. We moved on to Nazareth after lunch, a predominantly Muslim and Christian city. Here we saw the Greek Orthodox Church and the Church of St. Mary's. Balia, our guide, surprised us by taking us to his family's home and treating us to a light dinner. This was definitely a highlight of the trip. The next day, we left early from Haifa and headed down into the West Bank to visit Jericho and its surrounding landmarks. First, we visited the Jordan River, where our CTS students rebaptized 6 of our group members in the flowing waters. From the river, we traveled to Jericho, where we rode a cable car up to the Mount of Temptations. We explored the Greek Orthodox monastery atop the mount, had lunch, and went back down via the cable car again. The bus from Jericho to the outskirts of Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives. Some of us even got the chance to ride a camel for the first time ever.
Hold tight.
From the Mount of Olives, we headed to the Garden of Gethsemane. Some of the olive trees in this garden are old enough to have been around in Jesus' time. Finally, we headed into Jerusalem, around the Old City, and to our hotel. The next morning, we woke up bright and early to head to the Dead Sea Valley. First on our list was the ancient fort of Masada. Built by King Herod, this vacation palace was later converted into a stronghold by the Jewish rebels fleeing the Roman invasion. On the way to our next destination, we passed through oases full of exotic wildlife such as the ibex or mountain goat. This next stop was Qumran, the site of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which had been left undisturbed in the surrounding caves for years on end. It was extremely hot outside, reaching well past 110 degrees Fahrenheit, so as a way to relax, we floated in the Dead Sea and covered ourselves in the mineral-rich mud of the area. As we entered into the Temple Mount in Jerusalem the next day, we were greeted by a variety of cultures and religions. Since only Muslims are allowed into the Dome of the Rock, Maya and our guide Balia were the only members of our group allowed to visit the interior. From the Temple Mount, we walked along the Via Dolorosa, the Way of the Cross. This was the route through the Old City along which Jesus carried the cross. We also visited the Western Wall, the last standing wall of the Second Temple of Jerusalem. At the end of the Via Dolorosa is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which houses the site of Jesus' crucifixion and his tomb. From the church, we headed out into the Old City markets to eat lunch and shop. That evening, we explored the main city center of the new city of Jerusalem. There were lots of people and music to enjoy. The next morning, we headed to the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. Unfortunately, no pictures were allowed inside the exhibit. From there, we headed to the city of Bethlehem in the West Bank. Here, we visited the Church of the Nativity, which was undergoing widespread renovations. We then ate lunch at a Bedouin tent-themed restaurant and proceeded to the local market square to meet with a group called Kairos Palestine, which talked about the political and socio-religious issues of the region. Their goal was to help bring an end to the legal discrimination against Palestinians. Alas, all good things must come to an end. This was the end of the Israel tour, and about half our group woke up very early to pack their bags and head for home. The rest of us had paid for an extension tour into Jordan and proceeded to spend the rest of the day crossing over the border and heading south. Our hotel was located in Wadi Musa, or Valley of Moses, adjacent to the ancient desert city of Petra. After we had arrived, we spent the rest of the day relaxing in the hotel and walking through the city streets to explore what it had to offer us. It was finally time to take a day to explore the hidden city of Petra. Established by the Nabateans in the hundreds BC, this city flourished into a major trading hub. The city was damaged by regional earthquakes and was abandoned in the midst of the Arab conquests of the 600s AD. Because Balia could not come with us into Jordan, our new guide Jamal led us through this ancient site. We ate lunch in Petra, then went back to our hotels to wash up. It was really hot outside. Then we took the bus to Wadi Rum, a valley full of beautiful landscape and lots of sand. Escaping a flash sandstorm, we boarded 2 jeeps for an adventure out into the desert. Amidst all the hot sand was a Bedouin tent. The man inside welcomed us and invited us for some special Bedouin tea. We set out from Wadi Rum to drive all the way to the north of the country. Our first stop was a bus tour of the Jordanian capital, Amman. It was a very modern city, but with a very historic foundation upon which it grew. Next stop was Madaba, home to a church with what is believed to be one of the oldest known mosaic maps of the region embedded into its floor. Finally, as our last site to visit in Jordan, we drove up to Mount Nebo, upon which it is said that Moses looked out into the Promised Land. From there, we headed back to Jerusalem, bringing a close to an amazing 2-week trip. The next morning, we woke up early to head our separate ways. Some of us went home, and others continued on their own personal adventures through the world.